All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Make sure everybody's joined. Okay. All right. So, first, thank you for everyone for joining our call today. So we still got people. Hold on one second. All right. So, thank you again for joining. My name's Tanya Clay House. I am a consultant working with the Civil Rights and Social Justice section on the Perfecting Democracy program. And we're excited to be able to host you all today and bring to you opportunities in which you can be participants and activists in helping to protect the right to vote. And so today we are happy to be able to have a conversation with our friends at the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law, as well as the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund. So what we're going to do today is provide you with kind of an orientation as to how to get involved, and then an opportunity to ask questions as necessary. So with that, and we're trying to keep this to an hour. And then we'll also provide follow-up information as necessary. So with that, let me go ahead and turn this directly over to our friend and colleague, Marcia Johnson, over at the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law.
Thank you, Tanya. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining on a Friday evening. Really appreciate your interest in volunteering with the Election Protection Coalition. I will have a very short slide presentation and then hand it over to Amir, who will also share with you the opportunities that are available. Why? There we go. So start from the beginning. There we go. Election protection. We're the nation's largest nonpartisan voter protection coalition, and we work with over 300 national, state, and local partners to ensure that voters have an opportunity to cast a ballot that will be counted, and that we have an infrastructure to address any problems that they may encounter during the voting period, before, during, and now after the voting period. And election protection's goal is to work with election officials, and sometimes we maybe need to go to the courts to address problems in real time. And, Emil will be sharing with you some of those problems that we're currently facing. We were joking before the program started that, this is an unprecedented election cycle, that we are often saying it's unprecedented cycle these days because the challenges to the vote keep increasing in very new and novel ways. So who we are, I talked a bit about the number of coalition partners and the nonpartisan nature of the program. Also wanted to share that, the different ways in which election protection supports voters. So the Lawyers Committee, in addition to co-convening the coalition, administers the 866 Vote hotline. We support work on social media monitoring, and then we also support field programs. And I talked a bit already about our goal in terms of ensuring that all voters can cast a ballot freely and have that ballot count. So the Election Protection Coalition is co-convened by a steering committee That includes the Lawyers Committee, the NAACP, State Voices, Verified Voting, Common Cause, and Disability Rights Network. I mentioned the 866-vote hotline, just to share a little bit more about the hotline. We, in 2020, received over 200,000 calls, and calls that were answered by trained legal volunteers. One of the things I'd like to share is that in addition to calling, voters can text, use Facebook Messenger and web chat to get a hold of our volunteers. Now, the deadline to sign up for the hotline has passed, but I wanted to share this information about the hotline because we really need all hands on deck in supporting, in sharing information and getting the word out about the hotline. What I'm going to focus on mainly today is working with our field programs as well, Amir. So in 2020, we had field programs in 34 states and recruited over 40,000 volunteers at polling locations around the country. Now, one of the things that the Lawyers Committee is going to be organizing this cycle is, in addition to the volunteers that are organized through the Legal Defense Fund and the grassroots volunteers that are organized through Common Cause, we are supporting a legal roving monitoring program in 3 states, in Alabama, Georgia, and Florida. And in this program, you're providing a legal response and resources for urgent problems that arise, and also being an observer in polling at polling locations to make sure that they're accessible. And so for those of you who are in these 3 areas of the country, we really encourage you to sign up and be a part of this program. We're also recruiting local counsel across the country. One of the things that has become increasingly a norm is having to file litigation to ensure that voters can have their votes counted. The challenge is we don't always know when the cause for litigation may arise, because we're in a defensive posture and mainly responding to problems that we see happening on the ground, whether it's from polling places that did not open on time and needing poll hours to be extended, to other challenges that may come up that can be addressed on election day. We may also not be able to address issues on election day, but use the election day period to collect the necessary data needed to bring litigation after the fact. So the local counsel program is one where we get you ready in case you're needed. So I call this, the break glass in case of emergency volunteer opportunity. And mainly you would be working with our partners on the ground who are following up with voters and addressing problems to file pleadings and to provide other litigation support as needed. And I should note before with the, just going back here for a moment, for the legal monitoring program, they're distinct URLs to sign up, and I know Tawny will be sharing this with you later on. And with regards to the legal counsel program, you can, if interested, email eppartners@lawyerscommittee.org, and we will follow up with you and let you know what the process is to be involved with that. So it's a very quick overview of the opportunities we have available currently. Look forward to your questions. And with that, I will stop sharing and turn it over to Amir. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Marcia. Hello, everyone. Great to be with you. I am going to be sharing my screen, so just give me a couple of minutes to find the presentation. As always, I have way too many windows open. Okay, is everyone able to see my screen? I'm going to take that as a yes.
Yes, we can see it. We
Yes.
can see it, Amir.
Great. My name is Amr Badat. I am the manager of the Black Voters on the Rise project at LDF and Voting Special Counsel. I have to apologize in advance. I'm at the airport because of delayed flights. And so if you hear background noise, that is the goings on of the airport. And so I apologize for that. But I am going to be talking a little bit about some volunteer opportunities that are in the target states that LDF has. I'll start off by noting that we are in, like Marcia said at the outset, unprecedented times in many ways. We are facing a barrage of voter suppression bills that have been introduced and enacted across the country, particularly in southern states since 2020 with the lack of pre-clearance under Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act. We've seen a lot of bills actually enacted that have discriminatory impact on Black voters and other voters of color. And so these bills range from strict photo ID requirements to criminalization of routine election administration practices, bills that make it easier to purge voters, and bills that ban third-party funding of election administration. All of these bills have erected additional barriers for all voters, and in particular Black voters, to be able to cast their ballots and have them counted. And so that makes the work that we're talking about today even more important, because folks on the ground during early voting and election day and during the post-election process are huge resources for voters to be able to actually overcome the obstacles that have been erected and have their ballots counted. So a little bit about Black Voters on the Rise at LDF. Black Voters on the Rise is our year-round election protection and civic engagement program. We work to defend and advance the rights of Black voters and the promise of a free and fair democracy through the full life cycle of the democratic process. So that includes what we're talking about today through election protection, monitoring the polls, monitoring the ballot canvass. It includes some of what Marcia mentioned, which is using the data that we collect from our monitoring to help inform our advocacy and litigation work throughout the year. It also includes working in close partnership with our national organizations like the Lawyers Committee and other national partners, as well as what is really critical to the work, working with our state partners and state organizations who are on the ground in communities day in, day out, trying to make an impact. LDF's focus for this election cycle and for the past several election cycles has been predominantly in the South. The states that are up on the screen right now are where LDF's focus is. This is where a very significant number of Black voters in the United States lives. And it's also where these are all states that were previously covered under Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act, no longer have the protection of pre-clearance, and where LDF has been working for several decades now with communities and with organizations on the ground. We have seen several common issues related to elections come up during our monitoring activities. What's on the screen right now are some issues that you are likely to face as a poll monitor while you're on the ground visiting polling locations. Changes to polling locations at the last minute, oftentimes with very little notice, confusion about ID requirements, lack of accessibility and signage for individuals with disabilities, incidents related to voter intimidation. That is a big concern among voters and among organizations for this election cycle. Law enforcement presence, electioneering, these are just a sample of some of the issues that our poll monitors regularly observe, report, and help to respond to when they're volunteering with us. And so you can help with helping to address all of these issues, there are many volunteer opportunities that are available. Marcia described several of them, and I should note that the work that I'm talking about right now is in the context of the National Election Protection Coalition, the work of the National Election Protection Coalition, and we work in very close partnership with the Lawyers Committee and several other organizations who are part of that coalition. And so some of the volunteer opportunities that I'm going to be talking about overlap with some of the ones that Marcia talked about. And if you're interested in them, you can sign up through the different links that we're both putting on the screen and that will be emailed out after the presentation. So I'm going to be talking about 5 specific types of volunteer opportunities. I'll note that not all of these are going to be relevant to each state that we have a focus on. For example, ballot canvas monitoring is going to be most relevant to Texas, Florida, and Georgia, not as relevant in some of the other states. Poll monitoring, on the other hand, is going to be relevant to all 7 states that we have a focus in. And so I wanted to note that, some of these are going to be more relevant to some states than others. So starting off with election administration advocacy, we are in the last few weeks, as you all know, before the election cycle. County election boards and election commissions are having their final meetings over the next few weeks to finalize election administration procedures and make important decisions about where polling locations will be or where early voting locations will be, about early voting hours. They will be doing the final poll worker trainings and making decisions about what is included in those trainings. And so this role involves going to the regular meetings, the public meetings of your county election board or election commission, observing what's being discussed, reporting on what's being discussed, and if there's an opportunity to advocate for more broader access to the vote through more expansive election administration practices, then you can provide public comment, and we'll train you on how to provide public comment during these meetings. And so in certain states and certain counties, you're able to do this observation remotely because they stream their meetings. In other counties, they don't have that option available. And so that's going to vary state to state and county by county. But with this opportunity, we will train you on what to look out for, how to report issues, and how to provide public comment if you're there in person. Next, I'll talk about poll monitoring. Marcia already talked a little bit about poll monitoring. This is a field opportunity, so you will be in the field, going from polling location to polling location, identifying any issues that might exist at the polling location, some of which I talked about a little earlier, like long lines or accessibility barriers or intimidation, reporting those issues through either the hotline or an app that LDF has created into a centralized boiler room where we will have attorneys and other individuals associated with state organizations responding to those issues in real time, doing rapid response, triaging them, and trying to help voters as much as possible. The next opportunity is ballot canvas monitoring. Like I said, this is going to be most relevant for our focus states in Texas, Florida, and Georgia, where we expect there to potentially be issues related to the ballot canvas process. The ballot canvas process is likely not something that you know a lot about. It really came to the forefront of kind of the national conversation over the past couple of years, or over the past 4 years after the 2020 election, when there were attempts to use the ballot canvas process to inject doubt into the integrity of our elections. And so this is the process that occurs after Election Day. It involves the consolidation of election returns, the accounting of all ballots cast, whether they're Election Day, early voting, provisional, absentee, and then it leads to the certification of the election by county officials in the first instance, and then by state officials after that. It's a critical process to occur. in order for us to be able to have consistent and predictable elections. And it's a process that has been targeted by election deniers trying to inject doubt into the integrity of the election. And so what we are going to be doing in close collaboration with several partners is training individuals to monitor the ballot canvass process. Like I said, this all occurs after Election Day. It's usually a fairly long process. It takes place over the course of a day or a couple of days, depending on the county and how big it is. Our canvass monitors will be trained extensively on what the appropriate procedures are for the canvass, what you should look out for. They will be able to report any issues in through, again, either the hotline or the app that I mentioned. And then there will be attorneys on the back end helping to respond to those issues. This opportunity, I think, is particularly well suited for attorneys because it involves a lot of attention to detail. It involves understanding kind of intricate procedures and processes, which we will train everyone on. And it also could potentially involve direct advocacy to the election officials conducting the canvass to ensure that everything is running according to what the rules are. And so I think that this might be of particular interest to ABA attorneys and would love to get folks involved with this. Next is boiler room support. So this includes the participating on the hotline, but also participating in the actual boiler room on Election Day or during early voting. Each state has its own kind of boiler room procedures. Each state has its own requirements for who can be in the boiler room and who can't. So we cannot guarantee that everyone who signs up for this will be able to be a part of the boiler room because space is limited. It's usually a physical space, and so space will be limited. But if you are interested in this opportunity to help troubleshoot issues that are reported into the boiler room, then please do sign up, and then we'll work with you to try to figure out how to accommodate your interest in this opportunity. And then last, Marcia already talked about this, but help with filing emergency litigation during early voting or Election Day, or perhaps after Election Day. You will, if you want to do this opportunity, you will have to be licensed, obviously, in the state that you're volunteering in, and available to file usually in state court, sometimes in federal, but usually in state court in that particular state. This is the link that you can use to sign up. This is in addition to the links that Marcia already displayed. You can use the QR code on your phone to go directly to this link. You'll notice that at the end of this link, this link leads to a form, and at the end of the form, there is a field to indicate how you heard about the opportunity. Please make sure that you say that you heard about this through the ABA Perfecting Democracy orientation. And if you're interested in any of the opportunities that have been discussed today, I encourage you to sign up using this link. Thank you to everyone who's here tonight on a Friday night, Friday evening, depending on where you are. I really appreciate your time and your commitment to protecting this incredibly important election, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks so much, Amir. Thank you, Marcia. So at this point, we're going to open it up for people on the call to ask questions about what they just heard. And I know that I saw a question in the chat that I tried to answer quickly, but if anyone has questions, feel free to put them in the chat and we'll take the time here to answer them, or you can also raise your hand, but wanted to make sure we gave people this opportunity. All right, so for Marcia and Amir, I see a question about where we need the most.
Yes, generally everywhere. We mentioned the opportunities in the South, and there we've seen the challenges with those state legislatures responding to the unprecedented turnout in the 2020 election by passing suppressive voter legislation that will directly impact voters this cycle. Both the Lawyers Committee and the Legal Defense Fund are in court challenging those laws. But one of the things we've lost without the full protections of the Voting Rights Act is that elections are happening while we're still in the process of challenging those laws. And so those voters are particularly in need of protection as the rules have changed since they've last voted. And then we also see challenges. Just today, you may have heard the news in places like Georgia, where the election deniers are now running the show. And we had the Georgia Board of Elections just passed rules in recent weeks about what they need, needing to look at all relevant documents to certify the election. And then today they passed a rule saying that the counties have to hand count the votes. And so one of the things that we're really focused on is making sure that the voters have everything they need to have a ballot that will be hard to challenge, right? And so we want to make sure that we're sharing the information about the resources that are available to them. We want to be very active on election day to make sure that voters have in real-time support. And then we will be active, as Amir shared, in some of our states after election day to make sure that the votes that they did cast are protected. Now, one of the things I neglected to say in my presentation is that I did mention that election protection will have field programs in 34 states. I talked about the states where the Lawyers Committee is organizing the field programs, but I'm about to put in the chat trying to answer ahead as well some of the questions I see in the chat. I will put in the chat the website for our partner, Common Cause, that is organizing field programs in other states, and having your presence on the ground, having voters know that you're there to support them. It's immeasurable in terms of impact. So while we focused on certain states during this presentation, there are other opportunities that will be available. So while I pause so that Amir could weigh in, I'll put that link in the chat as well.
I don't really have anything to add there. I agree with everything Marcia said. I think it's tough to say where the specific need is. Everywhere there is a need. But we are seeing some really concerted attacks in places like Georgia, Florida, Texas, and other places. And so I think wherever you're willing to go, we can figure out a way for you to contribute.
So I'm gonna chime in because Marcia and Amir, that was my question as an in-house lawyer, not a litigator, but I know I have a distinct gift, right, as a lawyer that can be used and deployed, and in a swing state like Michigan. So how best should I get plugged in? Should I go to my local get out the vote, or can you guys plug me into the local get to vote? I just want to make sure my skills are used in the best way possible, because I thought about working a poll, and then I thought, oh wait, the ABA is doing something, maybe that'll get me plugged in better. So just trying to understand where I can be most effective.
Can I jump in here real quick before Marcy and Amir respond? Thanks for that question, Amy.
Yeah.
Also, in response to the email that Marcia put in. So what I I'm gonna ask respectfully if people can, we're gonna get people plugged in. We're gonna send out email links. And so before you just um, crash on the Protect the Vote net .net site, because what we're trying to do is make sure that you all are getting placed where you need to be placed. And we can't track it by you just going there without our knowledge. And so what I'm trying to do, and I'm trying to work with Common Cause to manage this process, and so that we can know, and so we can figure out where, how to make sure that you all are actually getting what you need. So this is the protectthevote.net is for Common Cause, but I'm diligent, I'm working to try to actually have what we just had here, this type of orientation with them, so that you can also get a better feel specifically about what you would be doing in those states, and then sign up. And that way we can, but I'm trying to do it ASAP, so just hold tight, but I want to make sure. And then with regard to the states, and I'll let Amir and Marcia jump in on this as well. Yeah, so there are, again, Common Cause is in a lot of the other states. So they're on the ground. And so you can plug in directly through them either, and there's also, and some, NAACP is actually also on the ground in other states. And so there's a lot of different local election protection coalition efforts that are going on. And so there are opportunities, there are plenty of opportunities for people to be involved. So I'll leave it, I'll stop there.
Yeah, and
Marcia, Amir.
I'll add that the link that I put up, if you look at the list, we have the list of states, and then at the bottom we have a box for other. And so if you check other, then we can help get you in touch with the relevant election protection organization in your state. We have kind of the full list of election protection coalitions and organizations working on the ground in each state. And so even if you're not able to volunteer in the states that we listed, that's absolutely okay, because we can still connect you with the right opportunity to be able to contribute.
Okay, so I see other questions that have come up since that we started. People ask, there's a question about remote opportunities. Are there any more remote opportunities?
So
No,
the election advocate volunteer opportunity can be remote if there are county boards that live stream their election meetings. But that's the only kind of remote opportunity that we discussed today. And so yeah, I think that's it. Marcy, I don't know if you have anything to add there.
No, nothing more to add there. Yes, today at this point in time, we're focused on the in-person opportunities apart from what Amir mentioned. And to the question about traveling, I really think it's important, and Tanya, be interested in you weighing in on this about to make sure that you're connected with the people on the ground who are organizing a particular program. So if and when you travel, that you are there as an added value to what the work that's being done. And there has been communication and coordination beforehand so that you could be effectively made a part of the efforts in the state. So that that's something I just wanted to lift up based on experience, that it's really important if anyone is thinking about traveling to really make sure that you're connected with the efforts in the ground, and that you with enough lead time so that you can be an effective volunteer for those efforts.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. We're not suggesting you just go drive to a state. Um, Definitely connect, make sure that you are connected with the groups on the ground, or the coalition that is organizing, because you will have had to have gone through training. There are things that need to be in place, credentials potential that you need to have in order to support different types of work that's happening on the ground. And we want to definitely be of value and not be, I'll just leave it at that. We want to be of value of assisting those that are of the community that is in most need of assistance.
And on that topic, and I think this is also responsive to Brian's question about what you can expect after signing up. You will be contacted either by LDF or the Lawyers Committee or another the relevant election protection organization within your state. You'll be contacted and provided training opportunities that you can sign up for. And so there is, in each state, an entire apparatus that is kind of focused on election protection. And so there are trainings that you'll be able to sign up for. You will be kind of communicated with throughout the process about if you're poll monitoring, what your assignments are, what you have to, bring on election day, what you should carry with you, how you should go about your monitoring. And so you will have, support in that way as well. But I think it kind of in the immediate aftermath of signing up for one of these volunteer opportunities, you will be contacted by one of our organizations to connect you with a training opportunity.
See that there's a comment about, well, and I know that I've experienced this so many times. So with someone who is, I guess, was working a poll site and actually had two different, yeah, yeah. Well, they had long waits and they had let's see, it looks like they had, in 220 New Jersey, 2 wards voted in the same school. Yeah, oftentimes there are two precincts at the same polling site. Sometimes it could be more. We've encountered this across many states. And yes, it becomes problematic. And this is actually one of the reasons why we really need people on the ground. Because that also, unfortunately, is what we'll see is the distinctions that I think was outlined here is that we know which one line might have more machines than the other, and the demographic is also different. And so it's an obvious issue that's going on, and that's one of the reasons why we do want poll monitors, people that can actually be in direct contact and alert everybody to what's happening, because sometimes there may need to be something that's done on the back end in order to assist people who may have had to leave to go back to work, who couldn't vote because of the long line. Well, that's also one of the reasons sometimes where filings are pursued in order to keep the polling places open longer because of these situations. So that's exactly one of the needs that we do have.
And Tony, I
see.
will mention that, because, EP has been around for so long and we have been collecting data with regard to elections, something like the example here in New Jersey, we have, as our partners on the ground, build infrastructure to assist voters. One of the things they're doing is having conversations with election officials and using data just as the one that Dana presented to say, okay, how can we prevent this from happening in the upcoming election, and for them to know that we will be holding them accountable to make sure that a similar problem doesn't occur. So in addition to the work that we described here, engagement with election officials before election day is part of the work that we do. Amir mentioned, 365. So, we're talking to election officials, we're providing data to partners who are pushing back against suppressive legislation. And we are making, we're doing all we can on all fronts to make sure that past problems don't become present problems. But the challenge we face is that there's always a new unimagined problem that comes up each election cycle. And this one in particular, with the narrative of rampant ineligible voters who are going to be casting ballots. That false narrative is really taking hold, particularly when you have so many election deniers who've been elected to be election officials. And so we just have a new problem on our hands and are really trying to make sure that we provide voters with as much support as possible.
I think we may have answered this. Someone asking about willing to travel, what can they expect after responding to the email or website in terms of making necessary travel arrangements? I feel like we may have addressed some of that. Okay,
Yeah, we jumped ahead
Yeah.
and addressed that one already.
yeah. Okay, does anyone have any other questions or any comments? I said what I'll do is I will send the links for home monitoring through NAACP LDF and the Lawyers Committee, and also be in touch as soon as possible about the other states in which you can also work on the ground through Common Cause, potentially others with the links. Anyone else? I know it's Friday. You're all like, I'm done, and we've had enough. Okay. But we really appreciate you joining. This is a great turnout, and we do hope that if there's anyone else that wasn't able to make it, this was recorded, so we will be able to provide this information to others. So just let them know. And we look forward to you all staying in touch with us. You have the contact information through Perfecting Democracy, so feel free to reach out with any additional questions. And I do want to thank Amir and Marcia for making the time, particularly at the airport. Thank you, Amir. And safe travels. And everybody, I hope you have a great weekend. All right, take care.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.